Hi, I'm Jonathan Block. In this video, I'm going to take a look at my favorite JHS pedal, the Mini AB box. This great little pedal enables you to switch between multiple outputs or inputs. So for example, I could plug a guitar into this side and then two separate amps coming to the outputs and I can switch between those. Or I could have two inputs. So for example, two separate guitars going to one output, one amp, and then switch between those guitars. So the way I use it is with those two inputs to one output. In my case, I use a Mellotron and a bass, and it goes out either in a live situation to an amp or a PA system. In the studio, that output will go into an interface. So this is a nice, really solid, great made in America pedal from JHS Pedals. It's got this great powder coating on it like classic MXR block effects. Nice solid switch. It has a light here, but you don't have to plug this in if you don't want to use the light. So you can just use this passively to switch between two instruments. There's no pops or clicks or noise or anything like that, and I'll demonstrate that in a bit. You can, however, plug it in and then you'll get a blue and a red light depending on, in my case, I got the Mellotron in the top and that's the blue light. And then on the bottom, I've got the bass, which is the red light. So it really makes it easy for you to see which instrument is active going to that one output. So one of the great things about this pedal is that it's kind of omnidirectional. So you can have one input to two outputs or two inputs to one output. So it's very flexible. However, it does switch between the two, so you're not going to get two instruments going at once. And you could actually only plug one instrument into one of these inputs if that's the way you're going to use it. And then the other time you switch would essentially be a mute. So you'd have the instrument on, and then it would be muted, and just a quick, easy way to have a mute if that's what you need. So what I'd like to do now is readjust the camera. I'm going to plug this in and demonstrate first how I use it with an amp. So I'll have the Mellotron and the bass going in. The output will go to the amp, and I'll switch between the instruments so you can hear what that sounds like. I zoomed out so you can see the whole setup, including the JHS pedal on the floor. So I'm using a 2-input, 1-output setup, which is what I use for live. So the output is going into a Mesa Subway bass amp. On the inputs for the top one, which is the blue light, that's the Mellotron input. And then that goes directly out to the bass amp. And then on the bottom, which is the red light, I have the bass. And that goes out through the pedal board and then out to the amp. So I have the phaser pedal on so you can tell that the pedal board is on. So now I'm just going to switch back and forth between the bass and the Mellotron. Here's a look at a setup I use for recording with the Mini AB box. So just like in the live setup, I've got the two inputs going to one output. I've got the Mellotron on the top for the blue light and the bass on the bottom with the red light. The output actually goes into a Boss volume pedal that I have on the ground there. I'll throw a picture of that up. The output from the volume pedal then goes into a GT1000 Core multi-effects from Boss, and the output from the GT1000 Core goes into a Boss RE202 Space Echo. I do not use this for delay that much. I actually use this as a sound-on-sound looper, which you can do by getting this into its long delay mode of 6 seconds. I'll put a link down below where I go way in depth about how to use this box for sound-on-sound looping with the Mellotron, and then there's also a video out there I did on the bass as well. So I have the bass going through all of this setup as well, so that enables me to either just play the Mellotron with different effects, play the bass, do some looping, whatever it might be. So right now, let me just demonstrate the bass. Sorry for that little bang there. The bass, let's just put a phaser on so you can hear. I just have the volume pedal all the way on so I don't have to worry about it. So there's the Mellotron. Let me switch this over to the bass and put this down to a patch that I have for the bass. A little more phaser. Why not some distortion too? Excuse me, overdrive. So what I'd like to do now is just a short few-minute demonstration of kind of that looping setup so you can hear how I can go back and forth between the instruments. So what I'll do for this is the first thing will be just to put down a little bit of a Mellotron loop, and then I'll switch and I'll do some soloing on the bass. So let's hear what that sounds like. All right, so I have the bass loop going, so let me disengage the space echo. So the space echo has its own personality, so that sound will kind of degrade over time. And then I can do some, switch this over to the bass, and I can do some bass soloing over it. I'll just turn on all the effects. And because of the way this is set up, I can then turn the space echo on, and I can do some bass looping and then Mellotron soloing over that. Kind of quick and dirty, but you get the idea of how you can kind of go back and forth easily between two instruments with the JHS Mini AB box. I hope you were able to see and hear how powerful this little pedal can be, particularly if you have a 2-instrument setup or a 2-amplifier setup, or even 2 pedal boards. You could plug a guitar in and go between 2 separate pedal boards. Now, while the options aren't endless, there's certainly a lot of different routing options with a little pedal like this. If you need an AB box, I highly recommend trying it out. If you own it or if you try it out and you have any comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.